another plot leak that was sent to me via email. As you all know, I always get a kick out of reading these, even if they are fan fiction, which most of them are. I have read several different variations on this channel already, but I continue to get sent new ones almost every week. Most of them I delete immediately because they are just so inconsistent with how Season 7 ended, it just wouldn't make much sense for any of it to happen. But sometimes I get sent ones that do line up with some of the things I expect to see next season. Let me make this clear though, that doesn't mean that I like them. I thought about reading the whole thing in one video, but it would take a while because this one is fairly detailed. So I figured I would read the first episode here, and if enough of you want me to read the rest, I will. Only if I get enough people saying they want to hear more though. But if most of you think this is trash, then I won't bother spending any more time making videos on this. According to the person that posted this leak, he said he works on the set of Game of Thrones. Personally, I do not believe him, but what the hell, I will give it a shot anyway, just in case. He basically said he has seen enough while working there to know almost everything that will happen next season, so he took notes and posted them on Reddit. Typically I would call bullshit right away, but last year a Way for the Lad said something very similar, and he just happened to be telling the truth. So I guess there is always a chance for these kind of things to happen. But will lightning strike twice in back-to-back seasons? Probably not, but let's proceed anyways. Season 8, Episode 1. The opening scene is at Castle Black. Beric and Tormund warn Ed of the breakthrough at Eastwatch by the Sea from the Night King's dragon. Ed begins to prepare ravens to warn everyone, but then he hears the sound of a horn. The horn sounds 3 times, and the army of the dead are seen approaching from the southeast. Beric tells Tormund to head south, while Beric stays with Lord Commander Ed. Beric says he still has a purpose to serve. He pulls out his sword, and it ignites. The ravens take flight, and are heading south until the dragon appears, and unleashes its blue flame on them. Beric shouts that not all the dead are coming to Castle Black. A larger army is seen following the Night King and Viserion, that are heading further south. The Whites reach Castle Black, and the battle begins. The next scene is Bran in the Godswood at the Weirwood Tree. He asks the Maester how long he has been in his vision. The Maester says, a few hours. Bran notes that he has not seen anything this time. He says that he may have been thrown out of a vision, and something must be wrong. Jon, Daenerys, Jorah, Tyrion, Varys, Brienne, the Hound, and some soldiers ride to the gate at Winterfell. Several guards of the North greet them at the gate. They look at Daenerys suspiciously. Jorah notices this, and he looks worried. Sansa and Arya arrive at the gate, and Sansa looks at Daenerys suspiciously as well, and Tyrion notices that they are reinforcing the walls. Sansa greets Jon, and she asks him how he managed to bring Daenerys and Cersei to peace. Jon hugs her, and he says, it's not that easy. Jon hugs Arya and says, so you did stick them with the pointy end. Arya smiles. She is very pleased to see Jon again. Jon and Bran look at each other, and Jon looks very worried. Sam, Gilly, and the baby are looking from across the yard. Ghost is next to Sam at this time. Sansa tells Jon that Bran's situation is hard to explain. Sansa says Bran has visions. Brienne asks Sansa where Littlefinger is. Jon wants to know that as well, so he repeats the question. Arya answers Jon, quite relaxed, and says that she executed him. Jon looks concerned. Then Sam greets him. Jon bends down to greet Ghost, and he brushes his fur for a few moments. Jon and Sam begin to talk about their time apart, and Sam asks Jon about the dragonglass on Dragonstone. Jon also says that so far, Longclaw has never failed him against the White Walkers. Tyrion addresses Sansa, and he asks her how she escaped King's Landing after Joffrey's death. Sansa says Littlefinger was behind everything. Jon asks Sansa why Winterfell is being prepared for a siege. Sansa says, a friend once told me you should prepare for any scenario. Then we will not experience any surprises. Then she smiles and Jon seems impressed. Jon then tells everyone to gather in the main hall. In the hall, Jon tells everyone that the king in the north is now serving Queen Daenerys Targaryen. Angry shouts erupt in the hall, and Sansa looks shocked. Lord Royce angrily asks Jon why he hasn't learned from the mistakes of Brandon Stark and his father. Targaryens cannot be trusted. Jon explains that he is obviously still alive. Jon also says Daenerys has not only provided dragonglass, but she has also provided her armies and her dragons. He says she has already helped him fight the dead, despite the dangerous threat. She has also sacrificed one of her dragons, which she considered a child of hers. Lord Glover then says he did not see any of this for himself. Daenerys explains that she did not come to conquer them. Lyanna Mormont then asks Dany about the peace treaty with Cersei. Daenerys says the war is at a momentary standstill. The war will continue after the Night King is defeated. Turmoil rises again, and Arya says aloud, "We cannot trust Cersei Lannister. She lied to stay alive. I do not believe she will stay at peace." Jorah Mormont begins to get nervous, and he grabs the hilt of his sword. In the side corridor, Sam asks Bran when he plans on telling Jon the truth. Bran says right now is not the right time. The tensions are already too high with Daenerys being here. Jon says he will not force anyone to stay in the north and fight, and he also says he will go to war for Daenerys, as she has already done the same for him. Lord Royce asks Tyrion if his sister Cersei can be trusted. Tyrion says they can because Cersei is aware of the threat of the army of the dead. Jon says there is no time to think about that. Everyone needs to send all of their men north. Lyanna Mormont and Lord Manderly agree. Daenerys says the dead do not argue. They follow their king, and they are coming. She has seen it herself. Bran says Daenerys is right. The dead do not speak. They follow one king, the Night King. I know many of you do not believe what I can see, but I have seen him. I met him. First in a vision, then he found me beyond the wall. He's coming. He's always coming. And he's getting closer. They have to stop him now. Daenerys tells the other lords they need to fight together and trust each other. In the next scene, Qyburn enters Cersei's chambers. He tells her the next phase is near completion, and your grace should see it for herself. They then walk through the Great Hall, and they enter a back room with a trap door. They go down a ladder and they enter a cellar that's pitch black, except there is a faint glow in the back of the room. When they enter, Cersei sees there is hundreds of pots of wildfire stored right under the throne room, and Qyburn says there's more, still stashed around the city. In the next scene, Euron arrives in Essos. Euron meets with the commander of the Golden Company, and he begins to mock them because of their pretty golden uniforms and their decorated elephants. The men of the Golden Company begin to board Euron's ships, along with war horses and elephants. The commander then asks Euron if it's true. Does this Targaryen queen really have dragons? Euron says yes, Daenerys does have dragons, but we also have something to defeat them. He then uncovers a large weapon at the back of his ship. The commander does not seem impressed. Euron then asks him if the Golden Company has knights exiled from Westeros. The commander says yes, and Euron says good, that makes us brothers. I was exiled too. Jaime meets with Bronn a few miles outside of the city. He tells Bronn he is leaving King's Landing and leaving Cersei for good. He says he plans on keeping his word to Jon and Daenerys, and if Bronn intends on surviving the winter and never getting paid, he should come with him. Bronn is not pleased to hear this, but he begrudgingly agrees to help. Jon is then seen in the crypts of Winterfell with Daenerys, and she asks Jon how many family members has he lost in the recent wars. Jon talks about Ned and Catelyn and Robb and Rickon. He says Rickon died right in front of him during the battle for Winterfell. Jon says Robb was betrayed. Unfortunately, his own mistakes led to his death. Jon says a broken promise cost him his life. Robb was set to wed, but he chose another woman instead, and it got him killed. Jon looks at Ned's statue, and Daenerys does the same. But then Daenerys looks at Lyanna's and asks Jon who she is. Jon says, that's my Aunt Lyanna. She was abducted by Rhaegar Targaryen. It ultimately triggered Robert's rebellion. Daenerys seems confused by this. She says, I have heard many things about my brother Rhaegar, but it was always good things. An abduction of a defenseless woman does not sound like him. Jon looks at Lyanna and then Daenerys. He says, it doesn't matter now. They are all dead, and there is nothing we can do to change that. In the next scene, Tyrion is then seen alone in a room, writing someone a letter. Who he is writing is not revealed. Tormund arrives at Winterfell's gate. His horse is ready to collapse. As Jon and Daenerys are exiting the crypts, they both notice the guards are in a frenzy. They see them talking to Tormund, and he seems to be distressed. Tormund tells Jon what happened at Eastwatch by the Sea and Castle Black. He says the Night King has the dragon, and he's coming their way. Jon is utterly shocked, and Daenerys is on the verge of tears. In the next scene, we are at the last hearth, and there is a small boy seen outside playing in the snow with his father. Suddenly, the boy stops, and his father asks him what's wrong. The boy points to the nearby tree line. There are hundreds or more of blue eyes peering through the trees. The man tells his son to get inside now. The whites begin running into the village, and horns begin to blow, and little Ned Umber comes outside with several soldiers at his side. As more soldiers come outside, the sound of a dragon quickly drowns out the horns that were blowing. They tell Ned Umber to get back inside, but it's too late. There are too many. Thousands of whites, led by multiple White Walkers and giants, are now just 100 feet away. The Night King comes out of the storm, and Viserion begins to unleash his blue flame on their castle. Chaos erupts, and everyone begins to get butchered. Viserion's blue flame delivers a devastating blow to the Umber's ancestral home. Ned Umber's personal guard is slaughtered, leaving him all alone. One of the White Walkers approaches him, and with one swift move, he pierces his heart with his ice sword. Ned Umber falls to the ground, as his home and people are destroyed. The final shot of the episode shows nearly a dozen White Walkers walking across the blood-soaked battlefield. Every man, woman, and child lay slain at their feet. The Night King then lands Viserion, and he steps off him for a moment. The camera will then pan across the ground, showing all the bodies begin to twitch and move, until it shows Ned Umber. His eyes begin to open with a piercing blue color, and the episode ends. Alrighty then folks, this is Season 8, Episode 1. Put all your thoughts or questions down below in the comment section.